What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to Talkin Sports with Jake. Hope you're all doing well. Going live on Sunday into Saturday. I had something to do yesterday called seeing the Oppenheimer movie. If you haven't seen it, it's been out for like a day and a half. Go and see it. It's absolutely amazing. All right, now to the actual part of my show. Let's talk some baseball standings from Major League Baseball. Baltimore Orioles lead the Rays by one game in the American League East. Orioles have had a great year, and the Rays. So ever since they started off the season 30-9. Now they're 61-41. So after winning 30 of their first 39, if my math serves me correctly, which it may not, I'm not very good at math. That makes them 31 and 32. So they are a game under 500 in their last 63 games. And they've played 102 so far this year. So for about 60% of the season or so, they've been a 500 team. That's crazy when you think about it. The Rays, they still have the, third best record in baseball? They're still one of the best, record-wise. They're, top 3 in the league? But for 60% of the year, they've been an average team. That's crazy when you think about it. But Baltimore has taken a one-game lead in the American League East. They've had a great season. Orioles are the second best team in baseball. That's absolutely crazy. The Toronto Blue Jays are in third place in the East. They're at 54-45. They're 6.5 games out. They lost the last two to Seattle. Teoscar Hernandez, who they traded in the offseason with the game-winning. He had the go-ahead hit in both games 2 nights ago. On Friday, he had the walk-off single and a go-ahead 2-run double in the 8th inning, 8th or 9th inning in the 8th inning last night. So that trade really didn't. I mean, Toronto trading him never made any sense. He hasn't had the best year, but still, I would have kept him. He's making Toronto pay for it. Boston 52-47. They're in 4th place right now, and then in last place is the New York Yankees. You heard that right? Yankees, they're technically tied with Boston. They have the same record as the Boston Red Sox right now, but Boston's has the tiebreak right now. They've got the head-to-head right now. So Yankees in last place. Their lineup has been pitiful. It's been absolutely horrible. Their rotation behind Cole isn't that great. Clark Smith's been pitching pretty well lately. You got Domingo Romano overall has been pretty good, especially lately. He's been kind of up and down. He was having a pretty okay year. Then he had the 2 really bad starts. He got 17 runs over 2 starts. Then he threw a perfect game. Then right before the break, he had that one really good start. So we gave him 6 early innings. Should have went further on the wire to pull him up to 74 pitches. And their bullpen's been really struggling. Heading into the Angels series, they got swept, and the bullpen didn't give a bunch of runs. They had an 8.28 ERA in the previous 8 games, and then they give a bunch of runs in the 3 games against the Angels. They've taken the first 2 out of 3 games the Kansas City Royals, thankfully for the Yankees. As if they lost that series, season might have just been over if you can't beat the Royals. They lost 2 out of 3 to the Cubs to heading into the break. Came out of the break, lost 2 out of 3 to the Rockies, who are terrible. They got swept by the Angels, who are not playing well at all. And thankfully they've been able to, I guess, temporarily save their season by they've won the first 2 against the Kansas City Royals, go for the sweep today. But they are struggling right now. American League Central got the Minnesota Twins in first place. They're 2 games ahead of Cleveland. Right now, 52-48. They actually are 7-2 in the month of July. No, not the month of July. 7-2 since the All-Star. It's the best market in Major League Baseball. Playing well right now. They're 4 games over 500, going for first place in that terrible American League Central. Guardians are at 500, 49-49, only 2 games out of that division now. The Detroit Tigers are in 3rd place in that division at 44-54, 7 games out. White Sox, 41-59, have been horrible this year. Got the Royals at 28-72, 44 games under 500, are buried in last place. American League West, Texas Rangers, 58-41. They really haven't played well in a while, honestly. In May, they were rolling. They had a pretty big division lead. Obviously they score a lot of runs, but their pitching really isn't that good. Their division, which was pretty big at one point, is down just 3 games over Houston, who's in second place, 55-44. I'll be shocked if Houston doesn't end up winning that division. Because Seattle in third place, they're at 50-48, 7.5 games out of the division. Angels are showing right now. They're 15-40 on a game over 500. Have now in fourth place in that division. The Oakland Athletics got 28-73 on the worst team in baseball. They're only a half game worse than the Royals, actually. So those two teams are having a race to the bottom right now. Athletics are 45 games under 500, 28-73. It is July 23rd. It's late July, and they do not have 30 wins yet. That's crazy. National League East Braves, 63-34. I'm not sure they've slowed down of late. They've lost a couple of games. I'm surprised they even did that. They're rolling 29 games over 500, 11.5 game lead for that division. Got the Phillies, who have lost 4 in a row. They're getting really hot, but they're in second place. Marlins, who had a phenomenal first half, have lost 8 in a row out of the break. They're 0-8 since the All-Star break. 53-47. Aren't even in the playoffs right now. Only a game out, so the season isn't over, but they have hit a wall. The Mets, 46-52, are 6 games under 500, and they are 7 games out of the wild card. The trade deadline is in 9 days. The Mets want any shot of making any sort of comeback. They need to me, they play the Red Sox tonight at 7:10. It's about 2:00 Eastern time by the time I'm filming this. I'm not sure what time you guys are seeing this on YouTube. They have a game against Boston tonight. That's that they have the rubber game of the 3-game series. I think if they win this game against Boston, and I think they gotta take 5 of 6 from the Yankees and Washington. They have a 2-game set with the Bronx Bombers, and then a 4-game set with Washington. So either a split with the Yankees, and then you sweep the 4-game set with Washington, or you sweep the Yankees and take 3 to 4 from Washington. If they lose this game to the Boston Red Sox and they lose 2 or 3 to Boston, to me, they got to sweep the Yankees and the Nationals. They got to win all 6 of those games. That would bring them, because the whole point is that brings them to within a game of 500. They're 7 games out right now. So hopefully that brings them within 4 or 5 games of the wild card. It should. I think the last spot in the National League might be like Miami. Or no, maybe it's Miami or Arizona. So that could. So I think the Diamondbacks at 54-45. I think that might be that last team in. Starting next week. Well, next either Saturday or Sunday will be my next podcast. I'll probably start looking at the wild card standings as we inch closer to the home stretch. By the time I do this, so next week trade deadline will have passed. We'll be down to the final 2 months of regular season. We're getting really into the nitty-gritty of the last part of the season. So you think if they get within a game under 500, they're only 1 game under. They've actually won 10 of the last 16 or 10-6 in the last 16. So they've been playing better. After, obviously, through May, they were very mediocre. They had a god-awful June, but have played well in July. So if they can finish the month strong and get within a game of 500, hopefully they can get them, within striking distance of a playoff spot. Maybe, maybe Steve Cohen, you know what, this team has a shot. Maybe we don't still off. Let's bring in a piece or two and try to snag that last playoff spot. And Nationals are buried in last place in the National League East at 40-58. No surprise there. National League Central, Brewers a game and a half ahead of Cincinnati right now. Milwaukee's playing well. 55-44 Cincinnati, 54-46 a game and a half out. Got the Cardinal, the Cubs are in third place, 47-51, 7.5 games out. Cardinals in fourth place, 44-55. And they've been really bad. And the Pirates were in last place at 43-55. National League West Dodgers are rolling. 57-44 game lead for the West. Arizona and San Francisco have the same record right now at 54-45. Both those teams are 4 games out of the West. So the division isn't over. Dodgers for a while were like in second place in that division. They took over the division lead heading into the break by I think a half a game, and they've kind of ran with it so far. So the division go up to 4 games, but Arizona and San Francisco still hang in there. San Diego hanging around 48-51. So that means they're what? A couple games better than the Mets. So they're not dead in the water yet. Obviously, been a major disappointment, as had the Mets. Not dead in the water yet. And then the Rockies are burying last place at 39-59, 20 games under 500. So, and I want to talk about what the trade deadline is going to look like. Guys that could be available, teams that could be looking to buy and add to their team and push in a playoff push or a championship push. Teams that are looking to sell and are kind of waving the white flag and are more focused on next year than this year. My expectation is right now Tampa Bay Rays, the Toronto Blue Jays, the Houston Astros, Texas Rangers, Cincinnati Reds, Los Angeles Dodgers, and Arizona Diamondbacks will be the main buyers. Tampa, to me, needs some more bullpen help. You know, their lineup has definitely taken a step back. You know, when they were like, 30, when there were 20 plus games over 500 in May, they had maybe the best lineup in the league. They were firing on all cylinders. They've kind of come back down to earth from that a lot. So maybe another bat they could use. The rotation's been pretty good this year, led by Shane McClanahan, who's a Cy Young candidate. The bullpen, they're not as deep as they have been in past years. I feel like they could use another arm or two in that bullpen. Had a lot of injuries throughout the year. I think the Toronto Blue Jays should be a team that probably buys. Their lineup, on paper, you look at it like, wow, it's crazy. They haven't been as dominant as they were the last couple of years. Alejandro Kirk, their catcher, who started the All-Star game last year, has fallen off this year. He's taken a giant step back. And even Vladimir Guerrero Jr., who did make the All-Star team, is not doing what he was doing the last 2 years. His power is down. I know he won the home run derby, but he's only got maybe 12 or 13 home runs. I think he only had 9 at the break. He was the guy who hit 45 or something like that home runs. 2 years ago, hit 36 or 37, something like that. Last year, he's barely even got double digits right now. So he has not been bad by any means, but he's supposed to be the top 5 player in the league. To me, he hasn't quite been that. And, Dalton Varsho has not played well. That was a horrible trade, trading Lourdes Gurriel, who's hitting over 300 of Arizona, made his first All-Star team, and Gabriel Moreno, the young catcher, who's not been great Arizona, but still extremely young, very, very talented, to Arizona for Dalton Varsho, who I know he hit 25 home runs last year. He was kind of like a weird little player. He came up a catcher, but he's got really good speed, so they play him in the outfield. Plays left field or center field. They play him in left field. He plays all 3 outfield spots. But even last year, he only hit 220, and then he had 25 bombs, and he's still hitting 220, 230s. The power just isn't there. You have everyone Bo Bichette's been fantastic. He's been great. Even Kevin Kiermaier, who hasn't hit in 4 years, has come over from Tampa and played well. Whit Merrifield's hitting 280, 290. Matt Chapman's had a good year. But you got a few guys who were supposed to be big X factors from the lineup that really haven't hit really at all. The rotation's been pretty good, but I don't know what happened to Alek Manoah this year. Last year, he was so good. Had a 2.5 ERA, was a third. Was finished third in the Cy Young voting, was a beast. Year before that, he got caught up in middle of the season and pitched really well. He looked like one of the best young pitchers in all of baseball. Really, really confident on the mounds. And this year, he's been horrible. He's got an ERA over 6. At one point, they sent him to the minor leagues. They put him in rookie ball. By the way, rookie ball is not like the next level down. That's AAA. That's when guys first get drafted and they're 18, 19 years old. That's where that's where they start. That's where a baseball prospect's major baseball career starts. They sent him all the way back there. His first start in rookie ball, he gave up 11 runs in rookie ball. In rookie ball, gave up 11 runs. I don't think I ever did that in Little League. I wasn't even that good of a pitcher. I played first base. I was an accurate pitcher, but I threw so slow, guys would hit tanks off me with the pitchers, and eventually my dad was like, "Dude, go back to first base, please." I never even gave 11 runs. This guy's supposed to be the All-Star Major League. He's giving 11 runs against people that are younger than me, and I was a senior in college. Then they put him in Double A. So after he got rocked from rookie ball, they gave him a promotion to Double A. Pitched well. Just like a run over 5 innings, 10 strikeouts, and guys when he's pitching in the minor leagues, kind of like rehabbing or trying to work his way back, not gonna kill his arm. He's not gonna go that deep into the ball game. And after one good start in Double A, forgot he was an all-star last year and a second came late the year before. According back to the man, his first start against Detroit pitched well, but his last start was awful. It may have been 2 starts ago against, he gave up like 8 or 9 runs in like 3 innings. I'm not sure if he's had a start since then. He's fallen off. The rest of the rotation has been bad. Bassett's pitched well. The Barrios has been great. Goals has been great, but not having Alek Manoah be a factor this year has hurt them. Bullpen's been pretty good, but I could see them maybe looking for an outfield bat. The outfield. Springer's been pretty good this year, but even him he's had better years in the past. Thankfully, he's been healthy. Maybe another outfield bat. Maybe another reliever. Houston, offensively, they haven't been quite as good just because they haven't had Yordan Alvarez, who's a superstar. Their DH has been out for a while for the oblique injury. So they've definitely missed him. They've had a lot of injuries in the rotation. Guys have been in and out. Obviously lose Verlander in the offseason. He hasn't pitched well for the Mets, but obviously not having the production that he gave you the last couple of years has sure hurt a little bit. But Valdez has been great. Christian Javier has been very good. But you haven't had Urquidy in a while. So you haven't had a ton of help in the rotation. Bullpen's been fantastic, but the rotation has had some injuries. So may pick up one more bat. I mean, if Houston gets in, Southern Company, they could be in the World Series again. You just look at the top teams. The AL East is going to be won by either Tampa, who every year they seem to be like good enough to be a top team in the playoff, but not quite enough to have a deep run. Or Baltimore, who's still really young. Wherever Minnesota or Cleveland wins the Central, neither of that team is scary. In the West, if Texas gets in, to me, they don't have their pitching isn't good enough. If the Yankees get in, to me, they're not scary. They don't hit well. Their bullpen, because Aaron Boone overuses his bullpen in the first half of the season, is going to be shot by the playoffs. Outside of Garrett Cole, there's no starting pitcher that really scares me. So in Houston, with when they're with a really good lineup, if they're healthy, got a really good rotation. We know how good their bullpen is. You have a Hall of Fame a future Hall of Fame manager in Dusty Baker. They've been the ALCS 6 or 7 years in a row. They've been to 4 World Series in the last 5 or 6 years. They've won twice. There's no that's definitely intimidating to me. They're the favorite in the American League until someone beats them. Texas, I think, needs to buy. They really need to go after some starting pitching. Obviously, they thought Jacob DeGrom be a major factor. Didn't happen. When Nathan Eovaldi has been fantastic. He's having a career as a Cy Young candidate. Behind him, the rotation's not been fantastic. Bullpen isn't great, so maybe bring in another arm or two. The Reds want a starter. I don't blame them. Their lineup, they have so many young stars in that lineup, and the bullpen's actually been very good this year, but the rotation really hasn't been that great. They need to make a move. The Dodgers are, of course, always buying. They are searching for upgrades. I heard they might want another bat. So maybe I heard they've linked to Tommy Pham and Mark Hunt if the Mets sell. So we'll see what they do. But I heard they want another bat. And Arizona Diamondbacks, their lineup is fantastic. They have one of the best offenses, but their pitching really isn't that good. They got to be better. The rotation isn't great. The bullpen is definitely not good at all. They need a couple more arms on that staff. And their team for most of the first half of the season, they were in first place in the West, but the last few weeks haven't been great. This lack of pitching is kind of catching up to them. They got to be careful that they could go from being in first place for almost half the season to finding themselves out of the playoffs. So I think they should pick up a pitcher. Everything I think I'm going to sell. The Cardinals will sell. The president of baseball operations, Jim Mozek, said they will sell. The focus on 2024. The Chicago White Sox have already announced they plan to sell. The Washington Nationals I expect to sell. They're buried in last place. They're in a rebuild. I expect the Cubs to sell. They had a busy offseason. We're hoping for some improvement after winning only 74 games last year. Hasn't really happened. I think they're 6 games under 500 right now. They're in third place in the National League Central. They have a couple of enticing pieces. They're now looking at they're only 4 games under 500, not 7, but the division. I mean, 7 games out of that division is not, super substantial because that division isn't that good. But like on the same token, second worst division in baseball. You add all these pieces in the offseason, you can't get within 7 games of the division. Maybe the team isn't that good. So I think they're probably going to sell. The Pirates, I plan to sell. They're in last place. They're in a rebuild. I expect the Rockies to sell. They're buried in last place in the top division. They're in a rebuild. The Tigers, who, they're about 10 games under 500, 7 games out of the worst division in baseball. A week or two ago, they were only 5 games out of the division. So I thought, all right, maybe they would hang on because their season isn't over, but, now they're 7 games out. They're not a postseason team. They should sell. They got some pieces that can move. And then the Royals and A's are just pitiful. They should just start over, especially the A's. Please get the A's out of Oakland. But yeah, I expect them to sell. The future I'm not sure about. I don't know what the Mets are going to do. And I hope they don't sell, but if they're 7 or 8 games out of the wild card, they won't have it. That will be the right move. But if they can, if their schedule isn't that bad, for the next week and a half leading up to the deadline, you have another game against the Red Sox, and you play 2 games against the Yankees, who are really struggling, and 4 games against the hapless Nationals, who they crush all the time. Play them in a division rival that they always beat because of how bad Nationals have been the last couple of years. So I think there's a shot that they're playing a little better if they can get themselves back within striking distance. I don't think they'll sell. They probably won't do a whole lot. I think they'll maybe make a minor move or 2, but if anything, they would stand pat at the trade deadline. Not sure what's going to happen to the Padres. If they, they're sort of crawl within striking distance. If they're not in striking distance of a playoff spot, if they kind of fall off a little bit over next week, and they fall 7, 8 games out of the wild card again, I think they'll sell. But if they're in striking distance, I doubt they would. To be honest, I don't know what's going to happen with the Yankees. They're playing so bad right now. I mean, they'll most likely be at least within 2 or 3 games of the wild card. And I know they're targeting a lot of guys. They're looking for a corner outfield bat. I heard they want another starter. I heard they want another reliever. I heard they also want another catcher with Jose Trevino out for the year. He was having a terrible year. Kyle Higashioka's only hitting 230 this year. Ben Rortvedt has been in the minor leagues for most of his career. So now they want another catcher. But if they continue to struggle and they fall 6, 7 games out of the wild card by the time a trade deadline comes out, could they look to maybe do a sell/buy for next year? Having a $300 million payroll and being the Yankees and selling and missing the playoffs is embarrassing, but you gotta do what's best for business. And the Angels don't know what they're gonna do. They're struggling right now. They're 4 games out of the wild card. They're struggling. Trout's injured. So it depends what happens next week. And by whether they're going to sell, that, of course, means what happens with Shohei Ohtani. Speaking of Ohtani, that's a very interesting case to whether or not he should be traded. His stats here, he's hitting .302 for .397 on base, a .668 slugging, which looks like a video game number, a .1065 OPS, 35 home runs, 76 RBIs. If those numbers sound eerily familiar, it's because his numbers are strikingly similar to Aaron Judge's numbers at this point last season. Aaron Judge last year hit 62 home runs, broke an American League single season record, had one of the greatest individual seasons in MLB history last year. And on top of those numbers, Ohtani is also pitching well. He's 8-5, a 3.7 ERA. He's got a whip of just 1.12, 148 strikeouts against 47 walks and 111 2/3 innings. So he's having a phenomenal year. You go to Angels, and you're not gonna if you continue to struggle and you fall out of the race, come and trade them on August 1st in 9 days' time, and you're not going to make the playoffs, and it's looking very bleak that Ohtani is going to resign. Remember, he's probably going to get north of $500 million. Yes, you heard that correctly. North of $500 million this winter. Someone, although you gotta trade him. Like, you can't just hang on to him for 2 months, just for a swan song or like for hope. Problem is, look, if Ohtani had even 1 year of control, every team would give you the world for him. But the issue is, you're only going to have him for if you're only having him for a couple of months, do you want to mortgage the farm for having a guy for a couple of months? That's a decision that team has to make. That being said, if Angels will make him available, which I heard they're listening to offers on him right now, but aren't ready to trade him yet. To me, if they said, all right, he's available, I think somebody will give you a huge package of prospects and young players who could be future all-stars. He's just so good and something that we've never seen before. Some team that's maybe like in the postseason, but needs some more firepower if they want to be a World Series contender. Maybe we'll just say F it and give you the world for him. So if you're not going to make the playoffs, and as a result, you don't think he's going to resign, I think you got to trade him. I'm going to go team by team here for guys that are, I think, could be available. The Cubs, I expect him to sell. Cody Bellinger probably will be traded in 67 games here. He's hitting .319. They have a .371 on base, a .539 slug. He's got a .910 OPS, 13 homers, 41 RBIs, stolen 12 bases. He's a great defender. He's a Gold Glove caliber center fielder, can play all three outfield spots, can also play first base. He's not quite the guy who won MVP in 2019, but guy who was terrible at the plate. Barely hit 200 the last 3 years, has rebounded in Chicago. He's needed the first start, which he got. Big bounce back here for Bellinger. I expect him to be more than the Yankees are looking at him. Another Cubs player, Marcus Stroman's on the block. In 21 starts, he's 10-7 with a 3.09 ERA. A whip of 1.14, 105 strikeouts against 46 walks, 122 in the third. He's been struggling lately. He's given up 4 more runs in 5 of his last 6 starts, but overall has had a great season. He's a really good pitcher. As a Met fan, of course, I don't like him. He's got a big mouth, but I don't think he's like an ace, like a Garrett Cole kind of guy. But he's as good as number 2 starter as you're going to get. He technically has 2 more years left on his deal, but he can opt out, considering, 2 years ago at the Mets, he had a really good year. He rated barely over 3, maybe even under 3. Got himself a $60 million deal. Last year, got to a horrible start, pitched better in the second half, had a meh year last year. But so the phenomenal year this year, he's been very inconsistent throughout his career. He'll have 1 year where he's great and he's an all-star. He's a top 10 pitcher in baseball. And the next year, he'll take a step back and he'll have a year close to 5. But he's got 1 year left on his deal. He's due around 20-ish million. Based off the year he's high, he's probably going to opt out. So I think the Cubs are probably going to trade him. St. Louis has a couple of pitchers. I think they could move Jordan Hicks. When the relievers, 39 games this year, 3.76 ERA. Whip of 1.5 isn't great. He also had a bad start this year, but he's rebounded nicely. He goes 103 miles an hour. A few years ago, he was emerging as one of the best young relievers in baseball. Then he had Tommy John. Long recovery from it. Bai didn't really react. Now he's finally starting. I think he's finally gotten back to full health. He's got 8 saves this year. The closer normally is Ryan Helsley, but he's been hurt at times this year. So that's why Hicks has gotten some action in the 9th inning again. He's been pitching really well lately. He's a really good late inning reliever who throws lightning over 100 miles an hour, 58 strikeouts in 40 2/3. Someone who needs a bullpen help could definitely look at him. Jordan Montgomery, one of their stars, he's had a really good year. Since he joined the Yankees, I betrayed to came over from the Yankees in a trade. I'm a trade deadline last year. He's been phenomenal. In 19 starts this year, he's got a 3.14 ERA, 101 strikeouts, 109 innings, 120 walks. He's a really good middle or early rotation starter. I expect he's going to be a free agent, as is Hicks. So I expect him to get moved. Jack Flaherty, I expect to get moved. In 19 starts, 4.39 ERA, whip of 1.5, 102 strikeouts, 52 walks, 104 2/3. Flaherty had a monster breakout year in 2019. Looked like he was going to develop into one of the best pitchers in baseball. Has had a lot of injuries since then, and then they've definitely set him back a little bit. He's not the stud he was a few years ago that we thought he was going to be, but he's still a pretty good innings eater as a third or fourth starter. Going to be a free agent. I expect him to be flipped for a decent prospect. If the Mets sell, they got a bunch of guys they could move. Tommy Pham is probably one of the most enticing, definitely the most enticing hitter. In 74 games, they're saying 272 or 356 on base, 9 homers, 35 RBIs, and 831 OPS. Can play all 3 outfield spots. You want a corner outfielder. He's one of the best ones on the market. Going to be a free agent after the season. Doesn't make a lot of money. He's on a $4.5 million contract, and he's only from a trade deadline comes around. There's only going to be about probably 55, 60 games left in the season. So you're paying him what? Only 60%, if that, of his contract. Of $4.5 million is not a lot of money. David Robertson has done a really good job for the Mets as their closer. In 39 games, ERA just over 2. Whip is barely over 1. He's got 14 saves. He's got 48 strikeouts, only 12 walks and 43 in the third. He's a veteran. He's been around a long time. He's been a closer. He's been a centerman. He's been a middle reliever. He's been on a lot of teams. Been around a long time. Could definitely help someone's bullpen. You got Mark Cosman, a guy who I think could get moved. He hasn't had a great year this year in 82 games, only hitting 242. Slugging only 386. His on base at 339 is low for him. He's only got a 725 OPS, only 6 homers, 20 RBIs. Guy who's always been a solid contributor throughout his career between Oakland and the Mets. But he's going to be a free agent. He won't cost a lot. He's a guy who's a veteran. He's got postseason experience. He's a good locker room guy. He can at the very least be like a platoon option who can play all 3 outfield spots. Plus, he can play first base. He's even play third base. I think teams will playoff contending teams who want a little bit of versatility will and just overall just want another veteran. Will give the Mets something for him. Honestly, even if the Mets buy, I would not mind if they traded them. Like they have 5 outfielders right now. They're starting outfielders Tommy Pham, Brendan Nimmo, and Sterling Marte. Yeah, and you have DJ Stewart, who actually hasn't been that bad because he got called up. And Kana, I know Marte's out right now. Pham's been nicked up, but he's going to avoid the IL. Hopefully, he's back in lineup today. But Kana will probably get moved. I wouldn't be surprised if he gets moved, especially if the Mets sell. Of course, there's the starting pitchers. Carlos Carrasco's gonna be afraid if they sell, he's probably gone. So only made 13 starts. He's battled some injuries. ERA is 5.35, 1.4 whip. 48 strikeouts and 6.5 2/3. Looks ugly, but after a horrific start, he's been pitching a little bit better lately. If he continues to pitch well, he pitches today. So including today, I'll have 2 more starts before the trade line. If he turns in quality outings in both those starts, if the Mets sell, someone who wants some more depth in the rotation will probably give up something for him. And then there's the 2 X factors, Max Scherzer and Justin Verlander. A report came out that the Mets will listen to offers on Scherzer and Verlander. I know they asked Scherzer about it after the game last night. Didn't pitch because he gave up 5 runs over 6 innings and 8-6 loss to Boston. In the second game, I'll have a doubleheader. So I'm not talking trade. I'm here to win with the Mets, period. I think they asked Verlander about it like a week ago. He said, "I'm focused. My focus is to win with the Mets." So he's clearly they're both committed to win with the Mets. That is their goal. Both have no trade clause, so they have to approve of any trade anyway. But if the Mets sell, you got Scherzer's got a 4.2 ERA this year, over 102 third innings. He's 30. He's about to be 39. He's due $43 million next year. Verlander's got a 3.4 ERA in 14 starts this year, so not quite what we thought they were going to. He's pitching better. Is 40 years old, due $43 million next year as well. If the Mets are gonna retool for next year, those are two guys you could look to move. I heard, teams of sniffed around Scherzer. About a month ago, though, there was a rumor that Scherzer would be willing to waive his no trade clause and leave the Mets if it meant he could compete for a World Series. But he came out last night and said, "I don't want to be traded," basically. And Verlander also said he's committed to the Mets and wants to win with the Mets. That being said, if he gets a chance to pitch for World Series, I don't know if you'd want that. If you're the Mets, it might not be a bad idea because how much these guys are getting paid and how old they are and how they're already declining. Might not be a bad idea to trade them. Or the San Francisco Giants are possibly interested in Verlander. So we shall see what happens with those two, but Mets are listening on them. For the White Sox, I said they're going to sell. Lucas Giolito will most likely be traded. In 20 starts, 6-6, 3.96 ERA, whip of 1.2, 122 strikeouts, and 116 innings. His last second semester was horrible, 9 runs allowed. He hit 6 walks in 3 2/3, but overall he's been really good. A couple of years ago was emerging as one of the best pitchers in baseball. He struggled last year, ERA of almost 5, but bounced back here this year. He's had a good year. Free agent after the year, he's a very good starting pitcher. I expect him to be moved. Next two guys I'm not sure of because they're not having good years. Tim Anderson, I don't know what happened to him this year. He's a guy who's every year hitting over 300. He's a former batting champion, all-star. In 75 games here, Tim Anderson's been horrible, hitting just 239 this year. Got 279 on base, a 278 slugging. His OPS was 557, which is atrocious. Doesn't have a single home run. He's never been a big power guy, but no home runs the whole season, and it's almost August. Only 16 runs batted in. Has had a really rough year. Need to change the scenery. He has a $14 million club option, so a team can decide whether to want him back. Based off how he performed, they'll that most likely get declined by where the White Sox were on our team. You never know. Maybe he gets traded to somebody else and he finds himself like hits 300 the last 2 months. And the team decides, you know what? $14 million actually ain't so bad for him, and they bring him back. But they have that option. It's a team option, not a player option. Then Lance Lynn, who's been awful this year. 2 years ago, he was was a Cy finalist. Was emerging as one of the best pitchers in baseball. Guy who you realize, holy crap, this guy's actually really consistent. Signed a multi-year extension. Last year was hurt to start the year, never got going. Was horrible last year, was horrible again this year. You have 6.18 this year, 1.4 web, 139 strikeouts, 115 innings. But, he was starting to pitch a little bit better. He's had a few really good outings lately, but mixed in also been some typical pretty bad outings. He loves his fastball. But I just think he's lost a little bit of oomph on it, and guys are just hammering it. But maybe if the White Sox will ask for a small return back, maybe someone will take a veteran like him who's had a lot of success in this league, a lot of playoff experience, especially in St. Louis, where he began his career. At the very least, maybe they say, all right, they'll put him in the back of the rotation for now for some depth. Hope that he pitches a little bit better. Maybe he could be a length option at the bullpen in the playoffs. As for Kansas City, they don't have that many pieces. I think Scott Brown's the guy I think might get moved. He hasn't had a great year this year. 34 games, 4.89 ERA, 1.4, 45 strikeouts in 35 innings. But the last few years, he's been one of the best late inning relievers in baseball. I think he's got another year of control. So I'm not sure if Kansas City will move him, but I can see them moving him. They could probably still get a decent return. Controllable relievers who do have a good track record that Barlow has, despite an offer this year, are like gold on the open market. So I could see them making a play for him. Eduardo Rodriguez for Detroit, I think could see getting moved. Technically, he's got 3 years left on his contract, but he can opt out. He's had a great year. 14 starts, missed a bunch of time of injury, but in 14 starts, 6-5, 2.69 ERA, a .97 whip, 88 strikeouts, only 18 walks, and 83 2/3. Who's come back from the IL hasn't been quite as good before. He went on the IL in May. He had 2.13 ERA, but overall has had a great season. Got a lot of playoff experience. Can definitely help someone's rotation. I think he'll get moved. Oakland looks to trade any good player they got. Brent Rooker was a guy who was the best hitter in the majors in April, has slowed down since then. only hitting 239, but has a 799 OPS, 6 numbers, 44 ribbies. Overall, had a decent year. And if Oakland could trade him, he's a guy who could, someone wants a little more depth in their lineup, could help them. I think Washington will trade Hamer Candelario. He's a failed former top prospect, came up in Chicago, played most of his years in Detroit. 91 games, saying 257, a 470 OPS, 478 slugging, 8 total OPS, 15 homers, 47 RBIs. Has had a good year. He can play first and third base. Someone who wants another bat in the middle of their lineup, he could be an enticing piece. As for Colorado, CJ Cron's a guy that I think they'll move. In 53 games, saying 255, a 480 OPS, a 779 slugging, 11 homers, 31 RBI. He's been great the last 2 years. Not as good this year. He's had some injuries, but has been playing better lately. Wants another power bat in their lineup. He's not a bad option. If San Diego sells, they have 2 impending free agents who are 2 really good pieces. Josh Hader might be the best reliever in baseball. Last year, coming over from Milwaukee, kind of struggled a little bit. Has been phenomenal as always this year. 39 games, a .97 ERA, a .95 WHIP, 24 saves, 55 strikeouts, only 18 walks in 37 innings. The Hader effect is like nothing else we've ever seen before. Maybe the best reliever in baseball. Free agent after the year, the Padres sell. He'll be going somewhere else most likely. And Blake Snell is here in 20 starts, a 2.67 ERA. Over the last month or so, a little more than that. He's been maybe the best pitcher in baseball. It was 10 or 12 starts. He's a year under 1. He's had a great year from us, Cy Young winner. He's one of the best pitchers in baseball. If they sell, he could be an enticing piece that gets traded. I mean, if the Yankees choose to sell Harrison Bader, going to be a free agent. He could help somebody. He's not a great hitter in 50 games, hitting 247. Only a 705 OPS, 7 homers, 31 RBIs, but he's not the automatic out, and he's a great center fielder. So someone will take him, I would think, if the Yankees decide to sell it and move him. The Atlanta Braves extended Charles Darno through next year for $8 million for an $8 million team option. Atlanta loves extending their players, and they did. Darno's only played 39 games this year. For sure, he's had a great year, but he's left the Mets, has turned into a really good offensive catcher. So he's under contract for next year. Bryce Harper, he played the field for the first time in 2 years. A few days ago, actually at first base, his first ever game playing first base. That was cool. That's what I got for baseball. For hockey, the only thing I got is Tanner Janelle. And Lightning re-signed him a 2-year deal worth $2.6 million per year. His numbers don't jump off the page. Right now is probably a 4th liner. He only had 6 goals, 12 assists, 18 points last year. Just a goal and 3 assists in 20. A goal and 3 assists in 20 games with Tampa. But remember, Tanner, you got 5 second-round picks and the player in Cal Foot for him. He's still really young. He's got the potential to improve a lot. And so getting him on a multi-year deal, 2-year deal for $2.6 million, I think is pretty fair. NBA, we had a trade. A campaign goes to the Spurs. Campaign a second-round pick, sends him to San Antonio for a second-round draft pick. He's a solid number 2 point guard. I think it's a good pickup for the Spurs. He averaged 10 points a game last year. The Spurs have done a good job. Obviously, you get Wemby, and they've just been taking on some veterans who weren't on terrible contracts. Not giving them a lot forward, so they have something. In the Grant Williams signing trade, I sent them to Dallas. They joined that deal and they pick up Reggie Bullock, who's a nice 3-and-D guy on the bench from Dallas. They've kind of done a couple of things like that, and they pick up Campaign from Phoenix. Suns signed Bobo to 1-year deal. Bobo actually played pretty well last year. He's a 7-footer who can shoot, he can dribble. I don't like comparing anybody to Wembanyama. He's kind of like Wembanyama light, sort of. But yeah, pretty good year last year. I'm surprised that the Magic waived him. He joins the Suns. They're trying to fill out their bench. The Bulls re-signed Ayo Dosunmu to a 3-year deal worth $21 million. He averaged almost 9 points a game last year. He's athletic. He's a very good number 2 point guard, kind of like campaign. They re-signed him. We got the USA Select team is getting filled out. What that is, obviously, you know about the FIBA USA team that's going to be playing. You know, that team's already finalized. I already talked about that in recent weeks, but the Select team, what they do, they practice against the USA team, and they have the opportunity to travel with the FIBA team, and if they can replace players on the FIBA team, like if somebody on the FIBA team gets hurt, they can be brought in as a replacement. And these it's like all like these like younger guys. This is what the team is so far. Cade Cunningham from the Detroit Pistons, Jalen Green from the Houston Rockets, Quentin Grimes from the New York Knicks, Chet Holmgren from the Oklahoma City Thunder, Trey Murphy from the New Orleans Pelicans, Keegan Murray from the Sacramento Kings, Peyton Pritchard from the Boston Celtics, Naz Reid from the Minnesota Timberwolves, and Jalen Williams, that's Jalen, Jalen Williams from the Oklahoma City Thunder. So that's what it is so far. So you never know. Maybe someone gets hurt and they get to join a team. It's a good opportunity for those young players. Before we move on to some other stuff, so Draymond Green has a podcast, as we know, and he talks about a lot of different things on it. And there's been a lot of stuff going on with Poole. You know, did Draymond get him traded? You know, they asked Poole about, you know, the Draymond thing. Once he got traded, it was like, you know, he basically dodged and said, you know, I'm focused on being with the Wizards right now. There's a rumor that came out, some random dude went on some podcast and says apparently like Poole said to keep it PG, you know, had more intercourse with women at Michigan than Draymond did at Michigan State. I think he said that, you know, he was gonna that when his contract ended after the season, no one would sign him and he'd be a free agent, he'd be poor. I don't know if it's believable. The guy seemed like he was kind of talking out of his backside, but who knows? And then, of course, Draymond punched him in the face. And the whole thing right before the season, and then after the season, you know, they asked Poole about his relationship with Draymond. He said, basically, it's okay, it's business. You know, not great. Basically, what he said without saying it. And Draymond actually, afterwards, got eliminated. Draymond actually went on his podcast and said, you know, me, my off the court stuff definitely wasn't a distraction this year. He did admit that, and they asked him. Someone asked him about on his podcast. He said like, "Oh, there's not one thing that triggers you. Like, you know, I don't just say you hear one thing get triggered right away. Kind of like did like mishmash." Jordan Poole's dad responded. Anthony Poole tweeted this out. I'm a stand on this. That is some BS. JP was his guy, and he avoided me all last year. He is a soft ass bitch, and I'm standing on this. And he didn't apologize to me and my wife, so he lame, and me and him can meet anytime he wants. So Poole's dad went after Draymond. So what really happened? I think what happened was, this is my prediction. What I've heard in the past that Draymond, we all know he loves to talk. He's always trash talking during the games. I think in like practice, you know, during the season, before the season, he's talking a lot. He does talk a lot of trash to his teammates, not like to intimidate them or, you know, try to get in their head necessarily. They're his teammates, but he's just trying to make them better. You know, obviously when he does this to the opposing teams during the season, he does it to try to test them off, make them not play as well, to give him a leg up. Just to his teammates, just to let them know, you know, this is how I'm going to play. I'm just trying to make you better, you know, and let's go win a championship. That kind of mentality. And I think he does it to a lot of the young players to try to test them and prepare them for the season. And I can understand how that can be a little bit, you know, frustrating for a young guy. But what I've heard is that they tell the young guys that's just what he does. He talks a lot, but it works for him. He helps us win, you know. But don't be alarmed. He doesn't like you. That's just who he is. And I guess some guys most guys seem to understand it. Draymond seems to have a lot of respect in the inner circles in the league. I'm not a huge fan of him, but my opinion is useless in this matter. I just think Poole didn't take too kindly to it. So he probably started firing back at Draymond. So maybe he did say, yo, I was with more women than you when I in college. Maybe he did say, yo, you're not gonna be on the team next year. Shut up. Maybe he did say something like that. Also, the whole Michigan State rivalry. Poole went to Michigan and Draymond went to Michigan State. So that whole rivalry, maybe he brought that up and just took Draymond over the top. And Poole, and I really think their relationship never really recovered. When they asked Poole after the season, it was business. These guys are making millions of dollars to competing for a championship. It was probably, when they saw each other, it's probably like, hey, man, hey, how's it going? It was not like, I'm sure when Draymond sees Steph's like, yo, man, what's up? And they shake, and then they dab up whatever with Draymond and Poole's probably like, hey, what's up? Like, they aren't a fan of each other. I'm sure it bothered Jordan Poole that the Warriors only suspended Draymond for like one day during training camp, and then he was back the day afterwards. But I think that bothered them. Like, you maybe not trade him, but like, at least suspend them for a couple of weeks in training camp. It's training camp. Only gets a regular season. Suspend them for 2 weeks at least, a day, and that probably pissed him off. And now he's in Washington. But yeah, Jordan Poole's dad went after Draymond. Before we get to the lot of stuff going on with the NFL, I want to talk about college football. As we know, very disturbing investigation into the Northwestern football program. Supposedly, for years now, there's been a lot of hazing going on in the football program. There was actually some sexual violence that went on, and some of the coaches even took part. As for Pat Fitzgerald, he's been there 17 years. I think he's been there for all of it. I don't think he was involved in this, but don't tell me he didn't know what was going on. These players every day, his whole football team's coming out and calling him out, saying, "Oh, he knew about the workplace was toxic. He knew about it." Don't tell me he didn't know what was going on. It was very, very disturbing, and hopefully, people start to speak out and something gets done about this. And the Northwestern program is going to suffer. I mean, first of all, they've been horrible. They've won 3 games in 2 years. And no one wants that head coach job. Like, why would you? The team sucks. They're buried in a tough conference. They're a PR nightmare. No one wants that job. Kidding me? And I hope the Northwestern football program gets what they deserve. In the NFL, we got, I heard the Carolina Panthers are looking to extend Brian Burns, their edge rusher. He's developed into one of the best young pass rushers in football. These are his sack numbers by season for his first 4 seasons: 7.5, 9.9, 12.5 last year, playing on his 5th-year option. He's an absolute beast, and Carol's looking to extend him. Blame him. DeAndre Hopkins signed with the Tennessee Titans. He got a 2-year deal worth $26 million. Incentives could bring it to $32 million total. So guaranteed 13-year, could get up to $16 million a year. 2-year deal. He goes to Tennessee. I don't know what New England offered him. One of my New England Patriots friends, actually Ashton, who you've seen on my podcast before in the past, said he told me that the Patriots actually offered him the same deal. So I don't know why he went to Tennessee. Actually, it's not a very desirable place. It's where wide receivers go to die. Randy Moss at the very end of his career went there, did nothing. Andre Jones, who at the time was still a good player, went there. His career just died once he went there. So this is Julio Jones, who was still a star receiver in the league. He goes there and just completely died there. How a year later goes to Tampa. Was actually playing a little bit better last year than what did in Tennessee. It was where star receivers go with die. But DeAndre Hopkins, remember, all these guys, Raymond was pretty much already washed, using basically at the very, very end. Julio, was he had too many injuries. He was starting to decline a little bit. And then so there's one more guy who I mentioned, Randy Moss, Julio. Andre Johnson was already declining. He was towards the very end. DeAndre Hopkins, he only played 9 games last year, so his numbers obviously are in 9 games. 64 catches for 717 yards and 3 touchdowns. He was on pace for over 1,300 yards over a full season. He's still a great player. He'll draw the double team, and he'll get you have a young receiver like Treylon Burks who's going to have one-on-one coverage all day. First round pick last year, that'll help him. So I think it's a very good move for the Tennessee Titans. But I'm sure if you own DeAndre Hopkins in fantasy, I'm sure you're not very happy. For contract extensions, the Jaguars extend their tight end Evan Engram, who had a career last year. After a rough tenure with the Giants, we had a lot of drop issues, never really reached his full potential. Last year, a big year in Jacksonville, 73 catches for 766 yards and 4 scores. He gets a 3-year extension of $42.5 million and $25 million guaranteed. So Jaguars locked down a weapon for Trevor Lawrence for the next 3 years. We got Bryce Young signed his rookie contract, 4-year deal with $37.8 million, probably guaranteed. The Ravens pick up some running back depth, pick up Melvin Gordon on a 1-year deal with $3.1 million. Melvin Gordon hasn't been that he was not very good last year in Denver. He had in 10 games had just 318 yards, only 2 scores, averaging 3.5 yards per carry. He had lost a bunch of fumbles, then he got cut. He might have finished here with the Chiefs, but didn't really play. So I don't know if that counts. But he's in down the Ravens. He gets a 1-year deal worth up to $3.1 million. And that being said, there were a lot of other running backs who were not as fortunate when it comes to getting contracts. Saquon Barkley, Josh Jacobs, and Tony Pollard, who all got franchise tag in the offseason. They all did not reach an agreement on a long-term deal with their respective teams. Pollard already signed his franchise tag, so he'll be playing on the tag. Barkley and Josh Jacobs, though, have not accepted. They have not signed their tag yet, so technically they're unsigned right now. Barkley last year, huge year after a couple of injury play after a big rookie year. He was terrible last year and returned to his rookie year form. Over 1,300 yards, 10 touchdowns, 4.4 yards a carry. Also had 57 catches for 338 yards. Josh Jacobs won the rushing title last year. Had 1,653 yards, 12 scores, 4.9 yards per carry. Also had 53 catches for 400 yards. Tony Pollard last year, he's playing on a tag. You could argue he deserves an extension last year. At one point, he was split with Zeke for most of the year. When it comes to the reps, had over 1,000 yards rushing, 9 touchdowns, 5.2 yards a carry. Also had 39 catches for 371 yards and 3 touchdowns. So all these running backs, all of them, McCaffrey, Derrick Henry, Austin Eckler, Najee Harris were all over social media calling out people, saying, that, running backs, deserve to be paid better. Zeke Elliott, the free agent, he got cut by Dallas. He's still a free agent. Dalvin Cook is still a free agent. Kareem Hunt's still a free agent. All these guys are from really good to still pretty good backs that are teams that want to pay. My take on it is this: I understand these running backs, want to get paid at what they're worth. Nothing wrong with that. I will never blast anybody for trying to get what they're worth. And I also understand that second contract for a running back is huge because that might be the only one that you get. You have your rookie deal for 4 or 5 years. You gotta get one more deal worth 3 to 5 years, and then by the time that second year's up, you're 28, 29 years old, and your career's almost over as a running back. That's just the reality. But why, if you're a GM or an owner, why would you give a 26-year-old running back who most likely in about 2 years' time, tell me it's 28, will start to decline, In about 4 years' time, once he hits 30, we'll basically have nothing left. We'll be at best a backup in this league. Why would you give them a 3 or 4 year deal worth 13, 14, 15 plus $million a year until they're 29 or 30 years old, when you could simply draft some 22-year-old in the 3rd round who can do the same things that running back does for a lot less money, posted for instead of $15 million for $1 million. But these running backs have to understand this is just where the league is going. It's a passing league. Yes, if you have a great back, it helps. Like, I forgot who said, like, oh yeah, if you have a great back, it everyone's gonna has a great back. That's not true. And actually, we're gonna have Neil come on the mic now. So Neil, what's up, Neil?
What's up, Jake 3152? How you doing, man?
I'm good, man. Just another day, another show.
Hey, man. Hey, listen, quickly. How's my sound? Is it all good?
Yep, sounds great.
Okay. All right, great. Because I know Twitter Space has been playing around with sound lately. So
yeah.
AirPods on, and sometimes AirPods can be a bit tricky. I just want to make sure.
Yeah.
What are we talking about today? How's the show going along so far?
So far, so good. No, you and Prince have been listening for a little bit. Thank you guys for tuning in. We're on Talkin Sports with Jake. I talked about a bunch of stuff so far, but right now I'm talking about the running back market and what's going on with that with Saquon and Josh Jacobs and all those guys.
Yeah, so I know they went and got James Robinson in
New
York just in case, they
don't
know what's going on with Saquon. But you got to move him if you don't want to have that hanging around, the team clubhouse like a cloud over your head the whole entire season. You got to do something about that. Try to figure it out with them. And if not, do something for the season. Because I thought the Giants made a lot of progress this season.
Yeah.
I think they want to build on that. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's a really tough situation. On one hand, Saquon has been injury prone 3 out of the 5 years he's been a Giant.
Right.
And he wants $13 million a year. But at the same time, he is instrumental to the Giants' success. The Giants for a while, going on a decade, they were bad for a pretty long time. They finally have some hope. They got themselves a real coach in Brian Dable, got themselves a real general manager in Joe Schoen. You finally put a decent product on the field. You make the playoffs, win a playoff game on the road. They keep building this offseason, add some more guys. Season looks pretty promising. But without Saquon Barkley, there is no shot the team is making the playoffs. With him, could they get in? Yeah, I think it's possible.
Yeah, it's this is crucial to their season. I think if they're trying to build on that progress, I think they have to figure this out. So I don't know if you guys heard that was a quick crack of lightning behind me. It hit the CN Tower. That's for you, Prince from Toronto. So what up, Prince? And so I don't know if you heard that crackling in the thunder behind me. So
I heard something. I hope everyone in Toronto's okay. It's not lightning here.
Yeah. There was this big bright light, and then I heard the crash. So I think it hit the CN Tower. But I was just gonna say, I think that the Giants definitely got to get this sorted out. And, James Robinson, he's not going to do a whole lot. I don't think. I think he's kind of a buyer in his career. So I don't think that that's something that they want to do. But they need to figure it out. What about the Jets, though? I think they're starting to look a little bit better than even last year. What do you expect from them this year? The Jets, in terms of just the New York teams.
I expect them to be a playoff team. If they don't make the playoffs with Aaron freaking Rodgers, I don't know what to do at that point. But I do expect them to be in the postseason. They were a quarterback away, and they got it. Rodgers is not what he once was, but he's still a decent quarterback.
Right.
And, they got a really good team around them. I expect them to be a 10-win team and be in the playoffs.
That's what I think, too. I think they're going to have a good season. I think they're a team to watch. And it's a good situation with Rodgers. He just has to basically be 75% of himself and then be successful. You know what I mean? So I'm looking forward to football season. Not gonna lie, I haven't read up too much on what to expect this year. I haven't done any preview stuff yet, but I'm gonna get into that soon. We're about 4 weeks away. Training camp.
Training camp is just starting now.
Okay.
And then
I'm talking about regular games. 4 weeks away. No, where are we at? We're halfway through July, so yeah. I guess when do we start to see the games for the preseason take place?
The Hall of Fame game, I think, is August 3rd.
Okay.
And then we'll have another month, 3 or another 3 weeks of preseason or so. And the first game is usually the first Thursday game is usually the first week in September.
Yeah. So yeah, we are not far off from preseason action. And is it 3 weeks this year?
I think now they do. The last couple of years they've been doing since they had the extra regular season game. They have that they took away a preseason week.
And that's good to know. I was expecting that. So I mean, what other teams? I know you're talking about running backs, but are there any teams that you're watching or that we can expect on your watch to kind of break the mold and do a 180? And what about the Titans? They've been making a couple moves here and there. Like, are there any teams that stand out to you that are going to probably make a change that we should watch for?
Titans, I expect them to be pretty bad. DeAndre Hopkins helps. Maybe they can get to second place in the AFC South. But besides the Jaguars, that division is so bad. As for teams I expect to take a big step forward, I think actually I am buying the Detroit Lions this year. They always find a way to screw up the Lions, just like the Jets, but they actually have a pretty good squad this year. The division's not that good, the NFC North, so with Aaron Rodgers now out of the division and now in New York. So I think they'll win the division. I feel like once in a while I would say, oh, they're finally turning it around, and then something happens and they screw it up. But I do.
Like the Lions to win the division?
I'm gonna pick them to win the division. Yeah.
Yeah, because it's gonna be a weaker division this year.
Yeah, I'm gonna do a NFL preview show once we get closer to the regular season. My goal is I'd like to do that when I'm back at school because I have the studio. I'd rather do that in the studio than on Zoom. But I also don't. I want to make sure I do it before the season actually starts.
Yeah.
So I'm not sure about that. So keep an eye out for that. It won't be any earlier than probably mid to late August at the earliest. If not, possibly it may happen maybe the 1st or 2nd of September or something. But yeah, that's a little while away. But
a month or so.
Yeah, 4 or 5 weeks away. I'll be doing that. So I'll give you my final predictions on what I think will happen this year. But yeah, right now I'm probably taking the Lions to win the division. I still think the division's that good. I think they got a pretty good squad this year. As for another team I could see maybe turning around and jumping into contention this year. I'm gonna go with. I will say. I think the Cleveland Browns. It's funny. I'm saying on their team that's usually really bad and always screws things up. I think the Cleveland Browns will be pretty good this year. If Watson is the guy that they brought in, that he was in Houston, obviously he shouldn't be in the league, but this is just the cards that we've been dealt by the NFL. Yeah, they made a lot of offseason moves that should help the team. They got a really good team, and there's no reason they can't win 10 games this year and be in the playoffs.
Okay, so let me ask you, let's break it down like this real quick. This might help me for fantasy too, if you don't mind. Give me the top 3 defenses that you think you'll see this year in the NFL.
The top 3 defenses. I'm gonna say the same.
You can go as far as top 5 if you feel there's enough variety there.
I can do that. Yeah, I'll say the San Francisco 49ers. They're pretty loaded. You add Javon Hargrave to the best defense in the league. Pretty much everyone there. A couple of depth guys aren't there, but they're pretty loaded at all. They got all pros at every level, so they'll definitely be there. Another great defense. I think the Jets will be in the top 5.
I think so too.
Their defense is really, really good. I think it's going to be even better just based off the guys that they've added. I think that's a team that's going to play a lot of really good defense. The Bills, I think, could be up there. If they're healthy, I think could be up there, but health's a concern for me with that defense, so I'm not sure.
Defense is going to step back this year. You see it kind of progressing a little bit.
They've been a top 2 scoring defense the last 2 years. That being said, they don't have Truman Edmonds anymore, the middle linebacker. Didn't really replace him with anybody notable. Having a secondary that basically all the guys back. You re-sign Jordan Poyer. Having Trey White and all these guys healthy will help. Getting Von Miller back will help. But they also have Sean McDermott calling the defensive plays, and then with Leslie Frazier stepping down. So I don't know if that's going to make a difference.
Okay, what about the Eagles? Are they going to continue?
Eagles will be up there. I think they'll be up there. They're pretty loaded. I know their defense. It's what if you can, you would rather not have a defense be that good as they were last year and then make as many changes as they did. But so many guys were free agents, they kind of had to pick which guys they could bring back and pitch which guys they were going to let go and try to replace through cheaper deals and through the draft. And overall, they did a really good job. They're very deep as well, so I think they will definitely be up there. And so, as for some other defenses, I think will be really good. I think Washington will have a good defense this year. Dallas is probably going to be up there. I think Dallas defense is a little overrated outside of Micah Parsons and Trayvon Diggs. Only true playmaker I see is DeMarcus Lawrence, but overall, I think they do have a very, very good defense. And as for some other defenses that I like, I'm just thinking of all the teams right now. I think that I'm trying to think of all the teams. I think I'm sure the New England Patriots will have at least a good defense. They still have Bill. Yeah. I think they'll be better. They won't be amazing, but bringing in Vic Fangio as a coordinator is a big help. He's not a good head coach, but a very good defensive coordinator. I think that'll help a lot. They added a couple of guys, I think. So I think their defense, which wasn't great last year, I think it'll be better. You got to put Kansas City there. Their receiving core on paper doesn't look great, but I think you could put you and me out there with Pat Mahomes. I think he'd still throw 40 scores.
Get him I'm going to aim for him.
Yeah.
2 years.
Okay. Yeah, I think they'll be out there. I expect the Eagles to be up there. Their offense really didn't change that much. You could argue that their running back room is even better. O-line, you losing Isaac Samuel is a decent loss, but they have pretty good depth there, so I think they'll be fine. So I expect the Eagles to still be a top 5 offense. I think the Chargers actually might be there. They have a little better coordinator with Kellen Moore over Joe Lombardi. You add Quentin Johnson with Herbert and all those guys. I think their offense will be really, really good. So that's another one. Thinking of some other ones, if they have a healthy quarterback, I think they'll be there. It's because if Purdy's healthy, it's him, but he's got to be healthy.
He's the guy.
If he's healthy, yes, he's the guy.
Yeah. That's all we really need is just a steady, solid quarterback, and then be fine. I think that's really what gets them all the way. I think.
Yeah, if they have a healthy average quarterback, even they're probably in the Super Bowl.
Yeah, exactly. That's really what they need. So, wait to see what they do there. I mean, and then I was gonna say, going back to defense real quick. I don't think they have a top defense, but I think Detroit Lions defense. I think we kind of talked about.
It's definitely it'll certainly be a lot better.
Yeah, it should be improved, and that's kind of what they needed because. They had great offense last year. The defense just sucked. And so if they have decent defense, they could be able to, like you said, what do you got them at 10 or 11 wins?
I have them, somewhere around there.
Yeah, as long as they're fully healthy, no issues whatsoever. Defense is a little bit better, or much improved in that case. But yeah, just trying to think. What do you think about the Ravens? What's going on over there in Baltimore?
So the Ravens say they want to pass more. That's what Lamar Jackson said. You look at the guys they added. They gave Odell Beckham Jr. $50 million guaranteed. They drafted Zay Flowers. They brought in Nelson Aguilar. They went from a run-first offensive coordinator in Greg Roman to a pass-first guy in Todd Monken. That being said, Lamar's not a pocket passer. I mean, yes, he's still going to run, obviously, but he's always been a running quarterback. The Ravens have always been a team that runs the ball a lot. So that's just not who they are. So I'll believe it when I see it, but I do think the Ravens are good enough to make the playoffs.
Yeah. So I would say it's kind of like for them, like with the Bills. The Bills, I thought last. Other than that, I don't think that there's going to be a lot of teams out there who are going to be, too like flat-footed in terms of like a terrible team. Are there any teams that really are in the basement right now? They're going to be absolutely horrendous. I don't think it's that bad this year, right? We're going to see like an 0-10 team or anything like that. Are there any teams that are really going to be that bad this year that you think that are going to get to the bottom?
I think Arizona's going to be really, really bad. Kyler coming off the injury. I don't even think Kyler's that good. You got a rookie head coach who I swear to God is James Murray. You have a rookie general manager.
Right.
The team is just not good. The receiving core is meh. I couldn't tell you a single offensive lineman on the team. The only X factor on defense is really Buda Baker, who might not even be there in week one and might get traded. That's what he wants right now. Right. Either an extension or a trade. He was holding out. Apparently, he's going to report to training camp now, but he was holding out. But yeah, I expect them to be really, really bad.
You should go draft Kyler Murray this
year. No. Maybe as a backup, but definitely as a starter.
Yeah, so it's some dark days in Arizona, and they're down for the wall.
Yeah, and so they'll be pretty bad. I think that Houston, I don't think is any good.
Don't get the base.
I don't think it'll be as bad as people are saying, but still, they're going to be like a 6-win team. Still, they're they'll be pretty bad. DeAndre Hopkins will help, but yeah, their defense isn't bad. It's pretty good, but I still don't see them scoring a lot. Hopkins is still very good, but Tennessee is where top receivers go to die. Andre Johnson, I talked about this earlier. Andre Johnson, Julio Jones, Randy Moss. So, and just, if at some point we're seeing Malik Willis or Will Levis, both those guys I think are absolutely horrible. Tannehill isn't even that good anymore. So, Derrick Henry is going to need to literally put the team on his back if they even want to go 500.
Yeah, exactly. It's got to be on him, right?
Yeah. To me, I just going to say the game plan should be literally hand the ball to Henry, everyone else blocking, get the hell out of the way. Right, yeah.
I was gonna say, the team that I was watching, like, I was really gonna play the moment better were the Denver Broncos. What do you see for the Broncos? Are they gonna get something going finally, or no?
I think Denver's gonna be better.
Right.
I don't think Russ will be as bad. Sean Payton's a great coach. But I still don't think they make the playoffs because I just don't think Russ is the same guy anymore.
Yeah, I think he's on the down. I thought that was the quarterback that the Giants should have got before. And anyway, when he was out there. But I thought when he got to Denver that might help. But they lost to Seattle in the opener last year.
Yeah.
That was funny. After seeing all that, you thought that they were going to be much better. But I don't know what they're trying to do. I might still pick up Jerry Deeney in fantasy. I think that they'll still get better.
Yeah.
But,
Yeah, Denver, I think will be better, but I still think they'll be a playoff team. I think Russ isn't like the worst quarterback in the league like he was last year. He was like in that category. I just think he's at this point he's very mediocre still.
Yeah. Okay, so you know what? Who are your top 5 quarterbacks this season?
I would say Pat Mahomes, number 1. Number 2, I'll say Joe Burrow. Number 3, I'll say Josh Allen. Number 4, I'll say Jalen Hurts.
Okay.
And number 5, I'm gonna say Trevor Lawrence.
Trevor Lawrence, yeah, he did definitely make a step up last season. Guy to watch for sure. He's a good quarterback to draft for fantasy.
I think so. Yeah, he's a guy you should target.
Makes Joe Burrow better than Josh Allen.
I just think that he's better in big games. He's more clutch.
Right.
And he's more accurate. And Allen's got a better arm and is more athletic and can run a little better, but Burrow's more clutch. And outside of Mahomes, if you need me a quarterback to win me a big game outside of Mahomes, I'm going with Burrow.
Okay, yeah, because Bleacher Report has him ranked ahead of Allen as well, 2 and 3.
And Joe Burrow just kicked his ass in the playoffs.
Yeah. So yeah, maybe I'll grab him in fantasy too. Also helping me educate myself, like going to be mock drafts yet, but at least I know what I'm watching for going in. You know what I mean?
Right.
Yeah, like I finished third last year. Year before I finished second, so I hope I can like get the league. It's only a 10-team league, which I think is like, appropriate. Because like with all the injuries and stuff, 10 teams is kind of healthy. And if you need to get something off the waiver wire, there's something there. I was actually in my work league. We had 16 teams. I finished third in that one too, but that was so hard with 16 teams. Like all the quarterbacks were taking
16's a lot.
Yeah, all the women in the league took all the quarterbacks in the first round. Like all the good quarterbacks we got. You know who saved me was Jared Goff because I took Matt Stafford and then 6th or 7th round. I think I took Goff, maybe even later, but he helped me. If I didn't get him last year, I may not have got to third place, but it was a hard move. So I might get him again. I would keep him as a backup and just see if I have to be in a terrible quarterback situation. But I think a lot of people will be watching for him too because he was actually ranked 9th because that work league I got is on the NFL app and they didn't do anything. So he had him help at 9th most of the season. Like, he was in the top 10 if he kind of slipped down like 12 or 13. So he's probably a back pocket quarterback that I'm going to keep in mind. I think it's all the
Yeah, he had a really good year last year. Not a bad option. This is all good thing with quarterbacks. You can take one with the 8th or 9th round, still get a guy that can give you like 17 or 18 points a week.
Sure. Going back to the Lions, I think the big X factor for them is Swift staying healthy all year because he was killing it at the beginning of last year. And then
DeAndre Swift is now with the Eagles.
Oh my God, he went to the Eagles. When did that happen? I didn't even know that.
At the draft, he got traded to the Eagles.
I did not know that. Pat Rush didn't even mention that. Wow. I wonder if he even knows that. I didn't know that. What did they get from?
Like a late round draft pick, I think.
Really? Maybe I knew that and forgot it, but I did not register that.
It was one of those moves that just because it just like there was such a little return, it happened during the draft, it just kind of flew under the radar.
Yeah, I never heard about that, I don't think. And that's crazy. That might help the Eagles quite a bit if he's healthy. Because he was really killing it. I've had him a few times in the past and he puts up good numbers. But like I said, last year he was doing well in the first 3 weeks or so. But then he got injured and he was out for a couple weeks here and there, whatever it was. But that's a good pickup for the Eagles. Wow. And they got what in return? Anything significant that helps them now?
Not really. I think it was like a 6th round pick or something.
Oh, wow. So, okay. So then it's Jamal now.
Yeah, well, no, he went to the Saints. Jamal Williams.
Wow. Maybe I don't even know the Detroit Lions anymore. I thought that those guys were still. They've made improvements where? So who are we watching then on the Lions this year, other than Goff as the quarterback?
Well, their backs are David Montgomery and Jahmyr Gibbs now.
Okay.
And then they got their receivers, and then they really got to be better on defense, like we just talked about.
Wow, interesting. Yeah, so I guess I missed both of those moves. Wow. You're right. Some of those moves don't really get enough attention sometimes. They just happen during the draft. It must have been mid-draft when they made that move.
Yeah, I think Swift was drafted during the middle of the draft. Jamal Williams, he signed during free agency. He was a free agent when he went to the Saints.
Yeah, that's a bit of a loss for them because he had a big season for them.
He did.
Yeah. Wow. I never heard any of this from Pat Roy. I wonder if he's aware. He's always talking Lions with me.
Wow. Yeah. Patrick loves his Lions.
I don't mind them either, actually. I kind of like them too. I don't really have a team. I'm in Toronto. We got the Buffalo.
Right.
right? And then so I mean I like them too, but they're not really my team. Like I don't have a football team really. And then Detroit's kind of like the second best team. It's kind of like when I was a younger kid, we didn't have the Raptors yet, and we had in the NBA we had the Chicago Bulls for Pistons. I thought New York was too far from
Right.
I thought Chicago and Detroit were closer. And with that rivalry, the bad boys versus the up and coming Bulls with Michael Jordan and Phil Jackson and Kobe, that was the team I picked as the underdog. So I was kind of like that was my favorite team with the Chicago Bulls. I was Michael Jordan was a big part of that team. So that's kind of like the same situation in football. I don't have a team to around here. We could have a team. We were going to try to get the Bills, but it never happened. Both the owners, Ron Wilson and Ted Rogers Jr. Rogers, of course, he was trying to buy the team, and obviously thought that he was the only guy within the radius of that Bills, franchise that could actually take on the team. And he's had games coming up here. They played him in the dome like probably 2 times a season for like a preseason. And it never happened. Both of those guys died and never ended up happening. But we wouldn't have a place to do tailgate parties anyways. I live right across from the dome. There's no space. There's like a tiny park there. That's not enough. There's nowhere you can just park into a parking lot unless you went down to the lake, but then you'd have to walk up like about a block and a half, which isn't bad. But so yeah, I mean, like we'd have to build a new stadium, but it doesn't happen. I don't think because we've got the Bills too close to us, and then Detroit's not far as well. It's only about 3 hours away, so I don't think we're in a radius that we can actually fit another team here. But I know New York's got that situation, but it'd be cool if they like expanded to. And I think the thoughts on this too, actually. Like this, games are happening in London, and I know like we thought about sending a team out there, and like it kind of would work because it's just a once a week kind of thing, right? In the schedule with the NFL with the bye, and then so if they were to do that, they gave the team to London, they'd have to give one to Toronto, but then you'd have I guess what 2 East, well, I don't know, 2 teams kind of the East, or I don't know how that happens with divisions and leagues, like in terms of the NFC, how you set that up, but I would hope that if they were to send a team out to London, they would give one to us up here.
Yeah, I doubt they can give London a team. It'd just be too much traveling for the teams, but I could see Canada getting a team. There's a baseball and a basketball team, and they make it work there. So I don't know why they couldn't get an NFL team.
Exactly. We used to have 2 baseball teams, right? We had the Expos, and then
and at one point you had the Expos as well, and now you still
the Grizz. We had originally the Vancouver area had the Grizzlies, which became the
right.
Grizzlies. And so I always thought that why do you want to keep the name Grizzlies when I moved to Memphis? I'm like, there are no Grizzlies there, are there? We should maybe change it to Memphis Presleys and have like
the Memphis Presleys for Elvis.
Yeah, exactly. But anyway, yeah. So I mean, that's the thing. Like, we don't have enough of we have basically the one baseball team, one basketball team, the whole country backs those 2 teams. But we do have. Like Vancouver, I think could have kept that team and could have kept it going. I think Stu Jackson kind of messed up that situation for them, and then he ended up going to the front office after. But I mean, if we ever got a team, if I had the couple $1 billion that I needed to get the franchise, I would bring it to Calgary, and I would call them the Calgary Cowboys because it's a total cowboy city, and they have the Stampede every year. It's the biggest outdoor festival in the world. They just had that like 2 weeks ago, the Stampede, Calgary Stampede. And so it's like there's a lot of Western culture there, and of course, and you just put like a little cowboy hat on the basketball for the Super Bowl. We would go red and white because they have a Calgary Stampede, so you see those same colors in the CFL. So because I don't know if Vancouver would be a good opportunity again because we already lost the league there, right? So I don't think you can give one to Montreal. So because we got the Raptors on this side. So for those 2 leagues, like Major League Baseball and basketball, NBA, I think those 2 teams are going to stand on. We'll never see another franchise in those 2 leagues.
Yeah.
Before that Tampa was going to move possibly to
That's right.
Montreal. I was hoping that would happen, especially how good they are. But I don't know. I haven't heard much about that lately.
Yeah, I know. At one point, the owner he wanted to play home games in Tampa and Montreal, and the league said, no, absolutely not. But yeah, I have heard they want to move to Montreal. They don't get any attendance there in Tampa. There's not a lot of Rays fans.
And the facility sucks. Like, it's like
it's
so hot there. They have to have that dome, and it's not the greatest ballpark. And it's such a good team. I would love for them to come back to Montreal and become the Expos again if that would be the case. There was another team. There's another place that they were supposing to that they could play. I can't remember who it was.
Yeah, I know. I've been to Tropicana Field. The field's actually pretty nice.
in terms of like quality of playing field. Like I
It's-
agree with that too.
It's
Yeah,
pretty
I
good.
think
It's
sucks. I think that just the stadium's not the greatest, but I think the field is fine.
like I went to the Rays game. I was probably like 13 or 14 years old, and there was a lot of stuff for like the kids to do, like in the stadium. So like 13-year-old me was like in heaven.
Yeah.
So like I like that part of it. Obviously baseball's trying to get these younger people, more younger people into baseball. So that's cool. The field overall is pretty nice. I just think, like I've been to Tampa in the summer. It's really hot. No one wants, in June, it's scorching hot. My dad lives in Tampa for the past almost 2 months. Every day when I talk to him, he was like, oh my God, it's so hot, 95, 100 degrees. It's just, it's hard to attract fans to a team. And it doesn't help that, they haven't been around that long. They've never won a World Series. They don't spend a lot of money as some of these other teams do. I mean, in their division alone, the Yankees spend a ton of money. The Red Sox spend a lot of money. Even the Blue Jays have recently spent a lot of money.
Yes.
So and just
Boston always does. And so you're right though. But the thing is, they've got a good farm system. They've been.
They do. They're not a
Yeah.
bad organization. They just they don't spend a lot of money, and just like I said,
Exactly.
and also the baseball season is from April to September. From June through August in Tampa, it is disgustingly hot. And being at a baseball game for 2.5 to 3 hours in June through August is just not something that people want to do. So, people just aren't, taking time out of their day and spending money to go to these games. They're, I don't think, when these people want to bring their kids, the first thing on the kids' mind is not, oh, I want to sit in the 97-degree heat on a June day and go watch the Rays. Play whether they're playing the Yankees, whether they're playing the Red Sox, whether they're playing, it's a random game against the Tigers. But, it doesn't matter. That's not something that's like is enticing. They'd rather, go in the pool because it's 98 degrees out. And with the humidity, it feels like 106. So it's just they're not in a great spot. It's a shame because they are a good ball club and they have been for a pretty little while. When they first came out, they were very good for a while. Then they had some dark days where weren't very good for a while. Now they've developed a pretty good squad.
Yeah.
But along with all the factors I named, just they haven't been around that long. They've never won a World Series. It's not a good spot.
Seriously, if he can pull Snell off the mound, I don't know what he was doing when he did that Kevin Cash and just some of his philosophies in pitching. He's a great manager. Though,
absolutely.
They got him in. He's been really good. And just a quick story about him. He actually made his major league debut in Toronto. I went to the game with my friend. We had these.
Really? Wow, very cool. Yeah, he played some baseball.
Yeah, he played for the Jays and made his debut with them. And here's a quick story. Kind of funny. My friend was a heckler. We always went to games. Always like screaming at to Kevin Cash. And he basically was just making his debut. He just came in the game. And a runner went to steal second. And he threw the second. It was a nice play, but the runner just beat him out. And there was no fault on Kevin Cash at all. He made the play he's supposed to. It's just the runner beat up the throat. And my friend gets up. He's like, let's go, Cash! Everybody just looking at us like we become like the assholes in the country waiting.
Oh my God.
The same thing with Marcus Camby when the Raptors played in the Sky Dome. He went up because when Marcus Camby got dropped by the Raptors, technically it was a bad pick. And I mean, I think I probably one of the big men after getting games out of my point guard, but I was like, there were so many other better players in that draft. You had to beat Kobe in that, and I think three with Iverson as well. But anyhow, I was going to say, Marcus Camby used to always go up for two-handed dunks and always get rejected by the rim. And we used to wonder that, my friend and I. And we went to the game, Bill. And sure enough, Marcus Camby goes up for two-handed dunk and misses it. He gets up, he says, you suck, Camby. 500. Knows this. He's been to the dome. But yeah, we were in the 500s and everybody just like looking at us because the Raptors used to play in the dome. It was kind of cool. They actually got half the dome down. They had like these like adjust curtains, you could call them. And they kind of like flagged them up. But like it was like they had the games and this guy was kind of cool. But yeah, just too cool story thing on that player. But yeah, Kevin Cash, going back to him real quick. Ever since he's been a manager, he's been a good manager. They have a nice situation in Tampa. I think that if the Montreal Expos became a team again, it would be Tampa. But I've not heard much about that at all. Not even since last summer. I've heard much. Not since then. I've not heard anything at all this season.
Yeah, that's kind of died down. But hey, you never know. You never know. We'll see if anyone.
Team, by the way, in baseball.
The New York Mets.
The Mets. Okay. Well, they had a lot of good pitching, and some of it's not. Well,
oh, okay. Yeah, they're playing a smidge bad, but they're still 7 games out of the wild card. To me, they have a game against the Red Sox tonight, and then they have 2 with the Yankees and 4 with the Nationals. So that's 7 games. They gotta win probably 6 of those games if they want to be in striking distance for a playoff spot going into the trade deadline.
Yeah, so their talent hasn't panned out as much as it should have.
No.
They still can get in, they can look at right. So that's kind of what the AL East is like. The Phillies are second right now, tied with the Marlins.
Yeah.
I mean, for the Jays, I'm gonna say I'm happy that they're actually. Well, they've slipped down 9 games now, about 500, but they got up to as high as 11. And I think that at this point in the season, you want to try to stay at about 15 games, about 500, so you can kind of assure yourself. I'll probably try to finish 20 above because it's so many teams that are going to be able to be like the Orioles are first, 60 and 30. And I didn't think that I'd see that this season. I knew they'd be. Yeah, even going into last year, I knew that they were a team that had a lot of great pieces and wouldn't have been surprised what they did last year. So when it started happening, people were like, oh, look at the Orioles. I'm like, I'm not surprised with their talent. But I didn't think by this year they'd be first place in the East, and they've already done that. And to be able to see what happened to Tampa slipping, because they were up to an amazing start this year. I didn't see a team start off like that danger. And now they've been slipping hard. So they're only 20 games over 500, which is, I think they were like 34 before or so. Like they've really taken a slide. And then now the Orioles got their 60 wins, 15-38 for their game ahead of them. The Jays are only 6.5 back. So I hope that the Jays can string it together, being a Blue Jays fan, of course. I hope that Ryu comes back soon because he's supposed to be and can help the rotation. I'm not confident in Alex Manoah at all because he should be the guy.
Yeah, I don't know what's going on with him.
Yeah, and something's not right with him. And I think that you brought him back. If Tiger didn't get a quality start, fine. But I knew going into the next game that it would be tricky for him because I know that he had a couple of bad calls in the ump, but I still think he's kind of shaky. So if there's a guy that's got to go down, it's either Kikuchi or Manoah, depending on the Manoah continues to pitch. But I think Ryu will come back and help the rotation. And if they can get their starting rotation going, and Kevin Gosling's been doing his thing. You know what I mean? Bruce has been good. He just can't get run support. And so if you can get some of these guys to just pitch well, and then the offense clicks, I think the Jays are probably going to try to make another acquisition for another bat.
Probably.
Actually, yeah. Basically, you're looking at Nelson Cruz. I don't want that move. I saw that they were looking at Teoscar Hernandez because Seattle's not doing well. If they make some moves.
Ooh, they're going to get him back?
Yeah, I don't know if that's true. I just saw a meme about that. I don't know if somebody made that up or if it was like an organization, like a baseball writing association or something like that had put that out, but I just didn't buy it yet. But I saw that. But I don't know why we would need them. To tell you the truth. I think we actually got ripped off on the Varsho trade, considering that.
Yeah, it did not work out for Toronto.
Yeah, that was brutal. I think we gave it too much. Even when the deal happened, I'm like, why are we giving up?
When it happened, I thought, you know what? Arizona won the trade.
They did. And Monero, too, is a top catching prospect. So,
yeah.
You know what I mean? And if anyone we should have traded should have been Alonzo Kirk because he had, the All-Star appearance at your Silver Slugger. Abundance of catching prospects and catching at the level. Even Danny Jansen does, he only hits 200 and has a OBP of 298 or whatever it is, but he's got all his power numbers. So, you know what I mean? There's enough at the catch position that could have made a trade that way, but I think, we lost that Varsho trade. They needed a left-hand bat. I didn't think that we also did well in the Teoscar Hernandez trade getting Eric Swanson. I thought he would have been the setup man. He's not even using the ball. So they got a few things they got to work out and get these guys into their roles, and you know what I mean. So we'll see. It starts with the rotation though, and then they need another bat. One move that I wish that they could have made a couple years ago, which really hurt Toronto, was losing Marcus Semien because he was in the lineup. Yeah, the Jays are dead in the lineup. So Yeah, I think see Toronto making a run is kind of what I'm saying more or less. I don't trust the Rays right now as much as they're fighting. I think they still make
Yeah,
it in the
they've
playoffs. Yeah, even though wild card spot is still possible for them, I think that they still stay in the playoff picture. But what are your thoughts? Like, what are you seeing with these races? And what do you think stands up to you? Like, I mean, the AL East is probably always the toughest division in my opinion.
oh yeah. The division's crazy. The Rays, they started off the season 30-9. So they won 30 of their first 39 games.
Yeah.
And since that point, their record is 31-32. So they're a game under 500 over the last 63 games.
Okay, just going back to the year. They were the first team to beat them. And they had a chance to sweep them, but they didn't do it. They only won 2 out of 3. And so who swept them? I think the Phillies did. So
Yeah.
Yeah, and ever since that time, like they've been really bad. Like this is their worst point of the season. So they have to make a move. Like you were talking about, they don't make a lot of moves in the free agency, but come trade deadline, they better be looking to make a move. That's something to help them. They have a team. So also though, they lost Rasmussen, who was a big picture for them.
Yeah.
And so that should be an added bonus if he can come back and start pitching for them again and pitch to the level that he's supposed to. I had him in fantasy that one hurt me. I had to drop him. But yeah, they've had a couple of injuries as well. So we'll see. I feel like now the door is open for the Blue Jays to get up and try to make some ground. So that's what I'm hoping for.
Yeah, I went over my buyers and sellers earlier, and Toronto was one of the teams I do think will be a buyer at the trade deadline. Yeah.
Who that is, or it has to be a left-handed bat. Like I'm not happy with Brandon Belt hitting third. I know you need to get a. I'm happy that they finally got a left-handed bat in that top 3 because you needed that. Like at the beginning of the season, we had like 5 right-handed bats off the top.
Wow.
And it's like you got to get a lefty in there. And I know it's not Brandon Belt, and he's been playing well. He did a home run yesterday, I believe. So like you know what I mean? Like they need to find somebody who can be a left-handed bat. It's too bad Marshall's not that guy. I don't think he will be.
Yeah.
But they need to find. They're looking for someone that's a left-handed power bat if he's available. You know what I mean? That could go ahead of Vladdy. I'm happy with Vladdy being in the fan spot. I really feel that this lineup is the brains of Mattingly, Don Mattingly, because it's like an lineup. You know what I mean? I think because I felt like I'm not gonna lie to you. I like Schneider or whatever, but he's not the guy to get us to a World Series. I think that Mattingly would be. I think that's why they brought him in. I was surprised.
Really? Oh, that's right.
Yeah,
He's like their bench coach or something, right?
Yeah, and I think that's why that's what they brought him in for, just in case Snyder wasn't going to be able to happen, because he made a lot of mistakes in the playoffs last year. I think that's kind of what Mattingly's there for, and I feel like that's what happened at the beginning of the year. Like we saw that line for talking about the batting line, the 5 right-handed bats on the top, and I feel like Mattingly might have stepped in, because when you look at this lineup, it's like an 80s lineup. You get the leadoff hitter where you have him, Bringer, that too, and then you bring in that left-handed bat now, which is Brandon Belt, and you put Vladdy in the cleanup position, which is where he really should be. You know what I mean? So I know there's that theory now in New League Baseball that you put your best hitter at the top and get him as many bats as possible, or in the top 2 spots, whatever have you. But I feel that that's a better lineup for the Blue Jays, but they need to still get a better left-handed power bat that they put in that 3rd spot. I don't know who that is, what position he is at, or if he plays in the DH role, but that's definitely what they need to look at, and that's what they need to get themselves up. And I would hope that Ryu is kind of the guy, the hidden surprise for us that comes in and does well. So we'll just have to wait and see. So, I mean, the reality is that they've made some ground, but they can't beat, like, they should not have lost that series to San Diego. You know what I mean? Like, those kind of teams that, they can't be losing to. So that's why I don't fully trust them, actually. But I hope that the door's open enough that they can move some ground. And they need to do it with the team. What other teams are you looking like? Your Mets, you're going to need another guy, right? Probably.
They're going to need a bunch of stuff, but they definitely need another bat. But,
your closer to injury at the beginning of the year.
That was tough.
Right? Yeah, that's the big blow I think that they suffered this year going in.
But yeah, they're gonna need bullpen help plus another bat. But if they don't play well next week, they're probably gonna sell.
Yeah, it's kind of a crucial week then for them.
Yes, this week decides what they do, pretty much.
Yeah, that's always a tough point, especially in July that you have to face that now. But I mean, they have talent in place that they're not far off. They make a couple tweaks. You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
Verlander was a good pickup of losing DeGrom. Not.
I mean, Verlander hasn't worked out, but yeah, I would. DeGrom, yikes.
Yeah, losing DeGrom though to get a guy like Verlander back, and you would have expected because he won Cy Young last year. He was amazing last year.
Right.
So I had him on the roster, so I was like surprised what happened this year. And so we'll see. Though basically, they just gotta and give themselves a chance, and then make a move at the deadline, perhaps. What about the Cincinnati Reds, man? Like,
ooh,
like I've never seen that in so many recent years. That where two players came in. I'm talking about Ellie De La Cruz and then Abbott, who have made instant impacts. And like, because when De La Cruz came in, he played, I think it was 15 games, and they had won the 12 in a row. So I feel like he brought that edge to the team, and then Abbott's been one of the best pitchers since he came into the majors. So those two players are there, and then you got the dude Anacarton Strand, who's going to be number 3 prospect. But they've got some players, and like then Joey Votto's like coming in the mix nicely,
right?
Back from that injury, you know what I mean? Like, and they've got some pitching, like so they might want to look at another pitcher. I think if they're trying to,
Yeah, I heard they definitely they're looking for a starting pitcher. That's what they're looking for right now.
Yeah, that's what they definitely started that.
Definitely.
They could maybe make a run. That'd be a cool story to see the Cincinnati Reds get in the playoffs, considering what they've been through in recent seasons too.
Definitely, yeah. They're starting to turn around now, which is good. A lot of young guys in that lineup.
I mean, De La Cruz made that Ken Griffey Jr. kind of impact. Like, I'm not.
He did. He really did.
He really did. Like, he just came in and like the energy that he brought, he was doing something every game, whether it's stealing the base, it's stealing home. Did you see that play? That was like,
yes, I did. That was crazy.
That's insane. Like, nobody knows him yet.
Absolutely wild.
Yeah, so it's good to see for the game. Like, it's good to see for Cincinnati too to get two players to come up, and Abbott as well. Abbott's been great in the rotation, and so like I think that those two teams have really turned. Sorry, I should say the two players have really turned the team around and helped it. So we'll see what they do at the deadline.
Yeah, and just some more NFL news. Zach Martin might hold out. He's one of the best offensive linemen in the league, the guard for the Cowboys, but he's only like the 8th highest paid guard, so he thinks he's underpaid, which he kind of has a point. So he might hold out. So we'll see what happens there. Just jumping all the way back to the running backs. I get why these running backs are upset. They want to get paid. That second contract for these backs is really important because after that, their career might be over. But you're not going to pay a 26-year-old back for 3, 4, 5 years for all this money when he can draft a rookie who's 21 years old, who's really cheap and do the same things. That's just the reality. They have to realize that.
Yeah.
You got the Jets have told Denzel Mims they're going to try to trade him. If they can't trade him, they're going to cut him. More second-round pick, hasn't really turned out. Had just 11 catches last year. He's not very good. So I'm not too mad about that. Steelers extend Alex Highsmith 4 years, $68 million. He had 14.5 sacks last year. If TJ Watt's healthy, those two guys together can have a chance to be deadly. You had who else we got? The Las Vegas Raiders are working out Marcus Peters. There was a rumor a few weeks ago, maybe even longer than that they're expected to sign him before training camp. Training camp is starting. They're working him out, so we'll see if they can work out a deal. Apparently, Aaron Rodgers still owed $100 million. Robert Saleh says he expects him to play next year, and even Aaron Rodgers said this is not a one-year thing. So it appears Rodgers is going to, as of right now, the plan is for him to play at least through next year, but you never know with him. We'll see what happens. The Dan Snyder era is over. Josh Harris and Magic Johnson's $6 million bid to buy the team is official. The NFL owners unanimously approved it. So they now own Washington Commanders, and they said they may change the name. So they only changed their name, remember, because they couldn't be the Washington Redskins anymore because an issue with that. So they finally changed it a couple of years ago. They are now the Washington Commanders, and but now Harrison and Magic might change it again just to try to erase everything that Dan Snyder did because his tenure as owner was not very good. He bought it in 1999. Now, the last few years have been a lot of stuff that's gone on. And Roger Goodell said the NFL is fine. Dan Snyder $60 million as a result into their investigation into the toxic workplace culture for that organization. Brett Marsh, the one you did with the Broncos, he had a pretty good regular season last year, 29 out of 32 field goals, 53 extra points, but he missed five extra points in the playoffs, playing 4 in one game against the Buccaneers. Dallas moved on from him. He's now in Denver. He will compete with Elliott Fry most likely for the starting kicker job this year. Talked about a little while ago with Neil that Buda Baker is reporting to camp, even though he wants to be traded or extended. I heard there was 2 fights at Jets training camp. You know, Aaron Rodgers was not happy with Hard Knock. He said he thinks it was forced down their throat. Apparently, we're not going to get the same kind of footage. They're just not going to let the cameras show players getting released like our teams did. So it is what it is. And I want to talk about the Madden ratings. So Madden ratings are always a topic of discussion. Every year, they're terrible. You got every year. There's so many guys like, oh, he's too high, he's too low. How do you have this guy over that guy? Have this guy below that guy? To me, I think Madden does it on purpose. Because they know their game is really, really bad. They decide, let's put out these really bad Madden ratings, and get people talking about it, and that's how they market their game. As bad as their games are, it's pretty genius because all of us are gonna, as bad as they are, as much as we're gonna complain about the ratings and the game, all of us most likely are gonna give them $60 to buy the game, whether it's when it first comes out or in December when it's Christmas time and everyone gets their gifts. But at some point, most of us, as much as we hate complaining about the game, will pay for it. So it's actually pretty good marketing, if you ask me. Here, I'm going to go over the top 15 quarterbacks. The quarterbacks, you got Mahomes the 99. Remains in the 99 club, so good for him. Not surprised. You got Joe Burrow at 95. Josh Allen at 94. Lamar Jackson's at 91. Jalen Hurts is an 88. Dak Prescott's an 87. Justin Herbert's an 87. Aaron Rodgers is an 86. Kirk Cousins is an 84. Tua is an 83. Trevor Lawrence is an 82. Geno Smith is an 81. Jared Goff is an 80. Kyler Murray is a 79. Derek Carr is a 78. So my issue with this, how on earth is Tua an 83? Why is Tua that high? I don't understand. Makes absolutely no sense. How is he above Trevor Lawrence? Someone needs to explain to me how Tua is ahead of Trevor Lawrence. Lawrence last year had over 4,000 yards, almost 30 touchdowns, had a great season. And Tua, who's always healthy, who's never healthy, that's a travesty. And another thing, they're outside the top 15, but Justin Fields is a 76. Daniel Jones is 75. I'm not a Daniel Jones guy. I don't think he's that great, but having Justin Fields, who has never thrown over 3,000 yards and has never done anything, or have him over Daniel Jones, I don't think it makes a lot of sense. I really do. I like Justin Fields, but based on what they've done in their careers, as much as of a critic I am for Daniel Jones, I think having Jones below Fields, I do think is a mistake.
Yeah, I'll be happy if I end up not getting a good quarterback.
Yeah. Yeah. But yeah, those are the quarterbacks. These are the running back rating, the top 15. Nick Chubb's a 97. Christian McCaffrey's a 96. Josh Jacobs is a 94. Derrick Henry's a 94. Saquon Barkley's a 93. Dalvin Cook's a 91. Austin Eckler's an 89. Jonathan Taylor's an 89. Tony Pollard is an 88. Aaron Jones is an 88. Joe Mixon's an 87. Kenneth Walker's an 87. Alvin Kamara's an 86. Miles Sanders is an 86. Cordell Patterson is an 85. So those are the running backs. To me, these aren't too bad. I would have Henry over Josh Jacobs. I think Henry's a little bit low. I mean, that poor man has had to carry the Titans year in, year out. I mean, I don't see Titans winning that many games unless Henry has like 30 carries at least. I would have him over. I have Henry over Jacobs. To me, Cordell Patterson's too high. He's not even a starting back. Why is he an 85? He's too high to me. The rest I don't really mind, to be honest. Maybe Aaron Jones a bit high at 88, but not that high. He's still very good. But my main warts are having Josh Jacobs over Derrick Henry and having Cordell Patterson at an 85. As for the wide receivers, and we're gonna have I think we have a mic request. So we'll see what happens here if Thor Damians is his name on the Twitter space. So we got these are the wide receiver rankings. So only the top 10 for the receivers. Justin Jefferson is a 99. Makes sense. He's in the 99 club. Welcome to the club, Justin Jefferson. Tyreek Hill's a 98. Devontae Adams a 97. Stephon Diggs a 96. Cooper Kupp's a 96. Jamar Chase a 94. DeAndre Hopkins a 93. Terry McLaurin's a 92. AJ Brown's a 91. And Amari Cooper is 91. So those are the top rated receivers. To me, AJ Brown's too low. I think he kind of flies on the radar. He's so good. To me, he should be in the top 5. I think he's too low. Cooper at 91, I would have him a little bit lower. Everyone says they think he's underrated. I don't think he's that underrated that people say he is. He's still very, very good. I don't think he's a top 10 receiver, he's more a top 15 guy. But so I would say move AJ Brown up. I would move Mark Cooper down. Here are the top tight ends. Got the top 15 tight ends. You got Travis Kelce at 99. He's in the 99 club. George Kittle at 96. Mark Andrews at 95. TJ Hawkinson at 90. Dallas Goedert at 89. Kyle Pitts at 87. Darren Waller at 86. Pat Schreimer from 85. David Njoku at 84. Evan Engram at 84. Dawson Knox at 83. Zach Ertz at 83. Gerald Everett at 82. Dalton Schultz at 82. And Mike Gesicki at 81. So those aren't that bad. I think Andrews should be ahead of Kittle. When Kittle's healthy, he's an absolute monster. But Andrews, year in and year out, is just going off. And Kittle's had some injuries the last few years. It was a little better last year with the health. I would have Andrews ahead of Kittle. Other than that, I thought the tight end rankings were pretty good. These are the defensive line rankings. You have Aaron Donald remains in the 99 club. Now, he was hurt a lot last year, but to me, he's still an absolute monster. So I don't mind him being in the 99 club still. Here are the other D linemen. We have Chris Jones at 96, Dexter Lawrence at 94, Quentin Williams at 93, Cameron Hayward at 93, Jonathan Allen at 92, Jeffrey Simmons at 89, Vita Vea at 88, DJ Reader at 87, Christian Wilkins at 86, Grady Jarrett at 86, Kenny Clark is an 86. Forrest Buckner is an 86. Darius Smith's an 85. Calais Campbell's an 85. So a couple of things here. I think Quentin Williams is ahead of Dexter Lawrence. I'm a little biased as a Jets fan, but I do think Quentin Williams should be ahead of Dexter Lawrence. I would just flip flop those two. I think that Calais Campbell's a little bit too high. He's at the end of his career. He's still pretty good, but not that great anymore. I don't think he should be an 85. So I would have him a little bit lower. I'm gonna have Vita Vea a little lower. He's an 80, he's an 88. Not that much lower. I would still have him at least an 85. So those are my knocks there. Edge rusher ratings. Here are the top 15. We got Nick Bosa's a 98. Myles Garrett's a 98. Micah Parsons a 97. TJ Watt's a 94. Von Miller's a 94. Max Crosby's a 94. Joey Bosa's a 91. Hassan Reddick's a 90. DeMarcus Lawrence is a 90. Matt Judon's an 89. Rashawn Gary's an 88. Brian Burns is an 87. Trey Henderson's an 87. Cameron Jordan's an 87. And Daniil Hunter is an 87. I don't have too many warts. I'd have TJ Watt a little bit higher. The top top 4 pass rushers in football are obviously Nick Bosa, Myles Garrett, Micah Parsons, TJ Watt, in my opinion. I don't think there's much of a question. Watt being like 3 overalls below, 3 to 4 overalls below all the top 3 to me doesn't sit well. I think you could. I have them all either 98, 97. I have both. I have Watt a little bit higher. I would have Max Crosby ahead of Von Miller. I think Von Miller's a little bit high. He's still a great player, but he's coming off a major injury at his age. So I'd have him a little higher. Maybe Rashawn Gary a little bit lower. I like him. When he's gotten playing time and healthy, he's been very good. But just what he's done in his career, I don't think he's an 88. I could see him breaking out this year because Zayre Smith isn't there anymore, so he'll get a lot more playing time, but I wouldn't have him as high. These are the middle linebackers. You got Fred Warner is a 96, Roquan Smith's a 92, Levante Davis a 91. Demetrius Davis is a 90, Bobby Wagner's an 89. Matt Milano is an 88. Nick Bolton's an 87. Tremaine Edmonds is an 87. Dre Greenlaw's an 86. Shaq Leonard's an 86. Devondre Campbell's an 85. CJ Mosley's an 85. Eric Kendrick's an 85. Shaq Thompson's an 84. Logan Wilson's an 84. So my knocks here, not having Devin White in the top 15, I don't think is right. I've heard people say he's a little bit overrated. I don't totally disagree, but I think he's at least. I think saying he's a top 10 linebacker is very, very fair. Certainly top 15. Him not being in the top 15 is a little questionable to me. I think there's an argument to have Shaq Leonard be an 86. I think based off what he's done, he's better than an 86, but he also barely played last year. So I can see why they would have him lower. And the rest of them I thought were fine. Here are the corner rankings. Jalen Ramsey's a 97. Jari Alexander is a 95. Patrick Surtain's a 94. Sauce Gardner's a 93. Marvin Humphrey's a 93. Darius Slay's a 92. Stephon Gilmore's a 91. Marshall Lattimore's a 90. Tre'Davious White is a 90. Denzel Ward's an 88. AJ Terrell's an 87. Travarius Ward's an 87. Kendall Fuller's an 87. Trayvon Diggs is an 87. And Chidobe Awuzie is an 85. And these rankings, I'm sorry, are not that good. Sauce Gardner is not the 4th best corner in the league. He's at least top 3. Having him below Ramsey is not right. Ramsey is not the best corner in the game anymore. Ramsey is overrated. He's still really good, still a top 10 corner, but he's not the best. So I'd have Ramsey much lower. I'd probably swap him and swap. Put Sauce at 97 and him and Ramsey at 93, if not even lower. And Stephon Gilmore at 91 is too high. He's still a good cover corner. A lot of people say, oh yeah, he's washed. He's definitely not washed. He's still a good cover corner, but he's not what he wants. Well, I'd have him a little bit lower. I'd probably have AJ Terrell a little bit higher. I also have Trayvon Diggs a little higher. And then the safeties. We got Derwin James at 94, Matthew Fitzpatrick at 93, Justin Simmons at 92, Kevin Byard at 92, Jesse Bates at 91, Tyrann Mathieu at 91, Budda Baker at 90, Jordan Poyer at 90, Harrison Smith at 90, Micah Hyde at 89, Marcus Williams at 88, Jamal Adams at 88, Quandre Diggs at 87, Jimmy Ward at 87, and Antoine Winfield Jr. at 87. To me, Minka, I would have him ahead of Derwin James. Derwin James is phenomenal, but he's a little injury prone, but he is phenomenal. I would flip flop him, Minka, and Derwin. Tyrann Mathieu is too high. He's not as good as he once was. A little bit older. I'd have him lower. Budda Baker should be a little bit higher. He's definitely ahead of Tyrann Mathieu. Harrison Smith is not quite what he once was. Still a good player, but not what he once was. He's not a 90 anymore to me. I'd have him a little lower. I will always say Jamal Adams is overrated, but 88 isn't that bad though. I think that's fair. The guys I have below him are probably below him. So that's what I got there. These are the offensive linemen. The first might be the first like 20 names because they grouped all guards, all tackles, and all centers. Zach Martin's in the 99 club. He's in the 99 club. Lane Johnson's a 98. Trent Williams is a 98. Laramie Tunsil's a 95. Chris Williamson's a 93. Andrew Thomas is a 92. Jason Kelsey's a 92. Joel Bitonio's a 92. Quentin Nelson's a 92. Tristan Wirfs a 92. Taron Armstrong's a 91. Creed Humphrey's a 90. David Bakhtiari's a 90, Ronnie Staley's a 90, Joe Thuney's an 89. These are pretty good. I think you could have had Trent Williams in the 99 club, but he's still a 98. I can't complain there. And that's really all I got. Maybe you have Taylor Armstrong a little bit lower because he gets hurt a lot. Same thing with Bakhtiari's barely played the last couple of years. But when they're healthy, they are fantastic. So not too many warts there. And those are your Madden ratings. I didn't make them. Again, shout out to Madden for this genius marketing strategy. And the only other things that I got are Brian Harmon wins the Open Championship by 6 strokes for his first major of their career win. Shout out to him. Carlos Alcaraz, this happened about a week ago. He wins Wimbledon. 20 years old, beat Novak Djokovic. Incredible match. He wins Wimbledon. Congrats to him. Tyson Fury and Francis Ngannou are going to fight in a boxing match on October 28th in Saudi Arabia. So hopefully Fury doesn't pull out like he always does, but that's what's planned right now. Before we end, let's talk about Monday Night Raw from Monday. You had Cody Rhodes came out and called out Brock Lesnar. Brock eventually came out and he assaulted Cody Rhodes. We'll see what happens there. We had Matt Riddle and Gunther fighting the match, and then Gunther picked up the win. In a women's tag match, Liv Morgan and Raquel Rodriguez went up against Chelsea Green, Sonya Deville in a women's tag team championship match, and Deville and Chelsea Green won. Remember, Raquel Rodriguez was attacked backstage, so she was hurt with that knee. She wasn't 100%. And Green and Deville took advantage of it. They win the women's tag titles. Alpha Academy against the Viking Raiders in a tag match. The Viking Raiders picked up a win. And Shayna Baszler versus Nikki Cross. You had Baszler won the match, very quick match. And then Ronda Rousey was like up top, and they had a low, and they went after each other. They kept talking with each other for more tag partners, and they're gonna fight at SummerSlam. That should be a good match. And then Miss TV happens. It was very chaotic there. Had Becky Lynch on, and then he welcomes Zoe Stark and Trish Stratus, and then Becky's like, I want to fight you. Trish's like, no, I already beat you. Then Becky started calling around, like, fine, if you can beat Zoe Stark, then you can fight me. Shinsuke Nakamura against Bronson Reed. Bronson Reed will win by disqualification in that match. You had Sami Zayn and Kevin Owens in a tag match against the Judgment Day, and Zayn and Owens won the match. So it was a pretty good show. We'll see where SummerSlam is shaking up to be a really good pay-per-view. That's all I got for you guys today. Until next time, so long. Have a great day.